at least in the livestock side of the equation, we're gonna have a couple, three, maybe good cattle years.
While you're talking about that, do you agree with the USDA wanting to do the RFID tags?
This has been an ongoing battle for some time, and it pits two sets of my constituents against each other. It pits the group that wants to have identification of where meat comes from at the grocery store against the group that doesn't want to do the tags for fear that it'll be tracked back to them. I don't see any solution coming, but USDA continues to try. What is it now? Animals over 18 months.
Yeah, but you know, when they do that, it's gonna include them all. They start out with one deal.
More overhead on the production.
Well,
So
I
do
don't
you
disagree
agree with that? That's what I was asking. What way would you vote?
No, I do not agree with that.
Okay.
Frank, what do you think what's your opinion on this, natural asset buying that they're trying to do now? Have you heard anything about it?
I don't know that particular topic's come up. Clarify for me a little bit, Sherry.
That's what
There's
I
so
want.
many different concepts floating around out there.
That's where they were trying to buy your air above your place, so that they could come down and kick farmers out and stuff, because we're polluting the air with our cow.
There are a lot of wild concepts out there, but I will tell you, there are some things you need to think about along that vein. You know, since basically the 1970s, most mineral rights have been split from the surface.
So we're doing.
And then there's been discussion about should the wind rights be separatable from the surface too? That's an ongoing discussion. Now maybe I'm old school, but I kind of think it all should be held together.
You own the air above your place.
Well, the SEC wanted to put the NACs on the New York
Securities
Stock
Exchange
Exchange.
Commission
Yeah. and
Yes.
those
is
are-
headed up by Gary Gensler. He's a second
That didn't
time,
pass.
he's a second time department head. Obama appointed him chairman of the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. He made $125 million in his younger days on Wall Street. And his job now is to torment the markets and to torment property owners. Biden moved him over to the Securities Exchange Commission, which has jurisdiction over all manner of business issues. He's a terrible person, and he's another example of where elections have consequences. If we hadn't elected Joe, we wouldn't have Gary. If we didn't have Gary, we wouldn't be having to deal with the stuff he's doing at SEC. And if Obama had never been elected, we would have not had 8 years of him at CFTC. Elections have consequences, and you get these people that we have to deal with, and I spend my time fighting them, trying to slow them down, to cut them off, when it just needs to be cleaned up. That's why we have presidential elections every 4 years. And yes, U.S. Senate elections and congressional elections too.
That brings me to a question I've talked to you about, the trails bill.
Uh-huh. The dead
HR
bill?
247, it's not dead,
Oh,
no. We've had a discussion about this, and you know, Linda Murphy and I go all over the state because of the 30 by 30 takeover of the federal government was what part of the NAC was, to control our land, our water, and our air. And so this bill, as you know, was to nationalize the Chisholm Trail and the Great Western, put it under the national park system to be controlled by the federal government. As you know, that was never a very good idea anyway, 18 years ago. I do appreciate you coming out and saying you don't support that bill now, but it is not dead. I have a letter from Ron Estes dated April the 28th, 2023.
okay.
Now, I spoke at a 30 by 30 summit in Irving.
A letter that you received from him?
No, it's a letter he sent to Bruce Westerman.
Okay.
Okay, so when I spoke at the 30 by 30 summit that Margaret Byfield invited me to speak at over the trails, and Sid Miller also, he's Texas Ag Commissioner, they had a summit, 30 by 30 summit in Irving. Right before I was supposed to get up and talk, I had this lady come over to me and said, she asked what we were talking about. We told them, well, that bill is dead. And we said, no. They called Ron Estes' office there before I talked. They called Linda and I ignorant.
Well, shame on them.
And I may be a lot of things, but I ain't ignorant.
I would agree with that.
Anyway, this is his letter, and if this wording is wrong, he needs to change it. It says, this is Ron Estes writing to Chairman Westerman, April the 28th, 2023. I'm writing you today regarding my bill in HR 247, the Chisholm National Historic Trail and Western Historic Trail Designation Act. I respectfully request your committee pause consideration of this legislation during the 118th Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pause to the normal person is, we're gonna pause it till nobody's looking and then we're gonna pass it. So you know, I don't know.
That is your interpretation,
Yes.
but I would remind you, number one, Ron Estes is very close to the Chamber of Commerce crowd in Wichita. This is a Chamber of Commerce project
Sure
in
it
various
is.
communities.
Yes.
The bill, as he admitted, is paused, which is a polite way of saying it's dead, but I don't want to say that my project is dead. It's dead. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. Now, 30 by 30, which was an effort of the Biden people to try and reach out and suck in the zealot, fanatical, so-called environmental crowd. The way you deal with 30 by 30 is you make sure that Biden doesn't have a second term. That's how you fix that issue. And if your colleagues in Kansas are as concerned as you are, the commissioner in Texas said, then they need to spend effort and time with their Kansas senators and the congressman in Wichita.
Yeah, but what affects Kansas affects Oklahoma, because the trails run all the way through our state and into Texas, so that bill affects us.
I'm just
As you
telling
know.
you in a very understandable way that nobody in Oklahoma supports that.
No.
Nobody in Texas supports that. So you need to get your friends to educate the members in Kansas. It isn't going anywhere, but if you want to make sure this never has to be tolerated again, then surely there are folks who share a like mind in Kansas who are willing to get the attention
We
of the
focus on
Congress.
our state in Oklahoma. Kansas has to take care of
Well,
Kansas.
then you've done a good job because it's dead from the Oklahoma perspective.
Okay, cool. That's what I
It
wanted
is
to know.
not going to happen.
It's been around for a long
And if
time.
you'll work equally as hard on getting Trump elected, we won't have to worry about this in the future.
So our efforts have paid off then, is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you that good members of Congress listen to their constituents.
Good. I appreciate, and like I say, I appreciate that from you. I appreciate you putting that out, you know.
And I've been around long enough. I've done 1,000+ town meetings. I've done a lot of listening. And the biggest challenge sometimes is how you balance the different groups of constituents. But
Well,
I'm
it's just
still
the
here,
word
so I guess I
pause.
balanced okay.
The pause is just not the correct word to use.
But again,
Nobody trusts
sometimes
anybody
elected
anymore.
officials are like the general public. We all want to save face, right? So, and he was trying to save his.
Okay.
And when you send him this video, I'm sure you'll be impressed. One more. Yes, sir.
I have a question about it was floated, several months ago about, taxation of your unrealized